Welcome. Welcome to my bubble, and thank you for having me in yours. Right now, in our bubbles, there's really nothing happening other than this talk right now. Or is there? You might be thinking about that pile of work waiting for you tomorrow. You might be thinking, have your kids had lunch yet? Someone might be thinking about what's going to happen on the next episode of Scandal. Whatever your concern is what makes your bubble unique to you. And there are so many distractions in our lives today, so many concerns and wants and needs that clump and fill our bubble. We can't see through it. And that's what happened to me. I had everything I wanted in my life, everything I needed to be happy. A loving family, good health, great career, a roof over my head, and a meal to eat every day. Yet I still had a void in me that I couldn't fill. There's something empty, eating it out the insides. I didn't know what to do. Slowly, my life became darker. And all I saw were problems. What was wrong in my life, not what was right. That frustration took me down into a rabbit hole, a downward spiral of depression, heartache, and even self-sabotage. I was stuck, and I didn't know how to get out. One day, a friend of mine from Greece came to visit, and she told me about her experience on the island of Lesbos, which is the closest island to Turkey. Thousands of refugees were arriving, mostly from Syria and Afghanistan, on a daily basis. She said to me, "Dalal, you speak Arabic. That's a great asset. Why don't you go?" And I said, "Me? Go to a crisis area? I've never seen anything harsher than a car accident ever in my life, so I didn't know if I could handle it. Was my heart strong enough?" I was thinking, you know what? I was stuck in a rut. Stuck. And if I don't do anything, if I do nothing at all, then nothing's going to change in my life. I thought I'd go. You might think that's a selfish reason to go. Yes, I admit, quite self-serving. I booked a one-way ticket. I just wanted to escape from my life. And I threw myself right into uncertainty. I didn't know where I was going to sleep. Yeah, now my mom knows. What I was going to see or do. I didn't even know when I was going to go home. All I took with me was a suitcase full of clothes and an open mind with absolutely no expectations whatsoever of what the future held. Bam! There I was, standing and frozen in utter shock on that beach shoreline on the island. There I was watching refugees coming down from this small rubber dinghy. It was meant for only half of them to be on there. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. "Take off their life jackets!" A voice brought me back to reality, and I started to approach these strangers, interfering into their personal space, unbuckling their life jackets in silence. I saw a man. He was looking around, tending to his family, looking for some help. So I approached him. And I said, "Alhamdulillah salama," which means, "Thank God for your safe arrival. How can I help you?" And his sad, worried eyes brightened up, and with a smile of disbelief, he says, "You speak Arabic? I thought we were like aliens arriving on a different planet. No one's going to understand us here, but there are so many people waiting just to help." And at that moment, I knew why I was there. I was there for him. I was there for all of them. And it wasn't the language. There were volunteers from different countries. They all didn't speak the language the refugees spoke, but the sheer love shared on that beach that day was the strongest language spoken. 3 months would pass, and I was still there in Greece. And I definitely got calls from family and friends saying, "What are you doing?" And no matter how I would send them the "A-OK, everything's fine" pictures, they would still be concerned about how I left my life to tend to refugees in Greece. I decided to stay there for longer, but my heart called me back home. I should be responsible. I should go back to my career. How irresponsible am I being with my life? I went back home, and I went to that job. I sat in front of that computer, and I saw nothing. Nothing at all. I was just a body, a shell. My heart and my mind, they weren't here, they were in Greece. How could I go back to my life, my mundane, routine life that I was already getting tired of, when I knew that I could make a difference, no matter how small, in someone else's life? So I decided to go back, to the discontent of my family and friends. I went back this time to Athens, where I started to coordinate a makeshift refugee accommodation. It used to be a school. And at that time, the borders in Europe were closed, and not a lot of people were being able to leave Greece as before. So they were stuck, desperate, uncertain about their future or the future of their children. They didn't know what language to learn, which country they were going to end up in, or even when. The desperation was growing, and the frustration was eating them. In this building, there were about 350 to 400 families at any given time. They had to live together. They didn't know each other, but they had to work together. They ended up playing, eating, and even through their deepest, darkest sorrows and frustrations, they even found a way to bring some cheer. This is the Mr. Skeleton in the bio lab, all dressed up for Ramadan. They had found this building and found each other in this harsh moment. But they built a community, they connected, and they made themselves a home. I have to tell you about Abu Mahmoud. Abu Mahmoud, I met at the accommodation. He used to be a groundskeeper of a school back in Syria before the war woke. He built a house, a beautiful farm with it, and he unfortunately didn't have time to enjoy it with his family, because when the war started, he started to receive displaced families in Syria. He would feed them and allow them to eat and stay for as long as they wanted. He was such a big heart in the building. Every day, he couldn't sleep unless he'd clean the courtyard so the children can enjoy it the next morning. Abu Mahmoud wanted to get to know me. I was the first person from this region that he met in this situation. So he asked me, where exactly are you from? I said, I'm from Oman. He asked me, which school did you go to? Which school? I didn't think he'd know any schools in Oman, so I answered him. He asked me, do you know someone called Ismail Suwaid? And I was overwhelmed with emotions. And I thought to myself, what a small world. He used to be my teacher when I was little. He was one of my favorite teachers for many years. I asked him, how do you know him? He said, Well, he was my neighbor. I couldn't believe it. There was an instant connection between me and Abu Mahmoud. And over the months as I volunteered in that accommodation, we became close. His wife would mother me, making sure, did you eat a sandwich? Because I'm so busy all the time. His children became my brothers and sisters. It was lovely. It was lovely for that moment. And I had to leave because I was going to France for a few months to volunteer there to help refugees sleeping on the streets of Paris. When I came back from Paris, I was broken, totally burnt out. I went back to Athens to find Abu Mahmoud still there. I was sad that he was still stuck there. His approval didn't come through, and his son in Germany was still waiting for him and his family. But I was still delighted to find him there, well and welcoming me. I immediately apologized, saying, I'm sorry, I didn't bring any funds or donations back with me, and I'm quite tired and exhausted from my experience in Paris. And he said, Dalal, that doesn't matter. You've offered so much. The fact that you are in this building brings my heart ease and peace. It was that simple. All I had to do was exist, be there, and I made someone else feel better. See, there's a lot of people who would prefer to dish out some money rather than put their heart out and see others suffer in front of them and help them face to face. And I'm not saying that donations are not good enough. They're great. Money and material is helpful, but for a short term. It's the being there. It's the support. It's that human connection that gives a lasting result. It's that value one human holds for another that makes the difference. I came back from Greece and my experience learning that connection, that bond, is so strong in our lives, in our daily lives. When we're sad, when we're desperate, we also want to connect. We want that hug. We want that kind word. And it's those small acts of kindness we can do on a daily basis that makes us better people and the world a better place. I'm not saying take a year out of your life, because that year was actually a reboot to mine. It opened my mind. I have a new perspective on life. It's like I took my whole existence to the laundry and I brought it back all fresh and clean. It was great. But you don't need to do that. You can do it now in your jobs, on your way to work, on your way home, wherever you are. Those small acts of kindness and that human connection that makes every difference. I'm just a simple girl. I went to work, I came back. That's all I do in my life. You don't have to be a superhuman to make a difference. But the sheer, small, and simple acts of giving and loving others, every one of us can do, is what can make you all superhumans. Thank you.